Now this is the most beautiful woodworking tool I've ever seen. And I've seen a bandsaw that looks like Marilyn Manson. I'm going to time myself making a drawer using this pocket hole jig. I got some more tools from Banggood, and this time there are some really nice looking ones in this pile and some really crappy ones. I ordered all of these on September 18th and they arrived 2 weeks later. So let's get right into it. This one is for the table saw and it's a 45-degree miter angle. It has a base so it stands on its own. It has a flat surface running along the miter so you can push it all the way to the blade of your table saw. It's made from stainless steel. And the big question here is it actually 45 degrees? Let's find out. The digital angle gauge shows 45 degrees, but then again, that's hard to use as a scientific proof. So I also checked it against my combination square and it seems to be accurate. And it's only 14 bucks. But one thing I would like to have to it though is a magnet. There we go. So let's move on. Well, let's linger a bit, because there is an ethical dilemma that needs to be addressed around these Chinese tools. And John from Lincoln Street Woodworks did a great video on that topic, so I'll leave a link to that down in the description. But the thing is that everyone needs to do that moral dilemma for themselves before they decide to purchase. This is a digital depth gauge. I've done this thing so many times. I use my combination square to try to set the blade height of my table saw, but it doesn't feel accurate. It might also be the fact that I have to kneel down to kind of see when the blade hits the combination square. That's annoying. You younger lot won't know, but as soon as you hit a certain age, putting your shoes on becomes something you don't do without moaning. So this would probably do the thing. Simply set it to your desired depth and raise the blade until it hits. Make sure you're at the top of the blade, of course. And you have your digital measurement on the digital scale. Could it be any easier? And the price, 10 bucks. Bargain! But is it accurate? Yes, from what I could tell doing all kinds of unscientific tests, yes it is. Of course it has a 0 button, so it gives you the measurement according to that, but when reset at the bottom and then lowered, it seems accurate. But you could just reset it at the table of the saw and then go from that as well. There is also a hold button, not to drop it I guess, a millimeter and inch button that you never have to press unless you are...
Do not complete that sentence.
Okay. And the on-off switch. But, and there is a big but here. It is very flimsy since it's plastic, and it's also very sensitive, so I'm not sure I can trust it. It does have magnets underneath, so it stands quite firm on the table, but I'm not sure I will use this or the combination square. I might just have to keep kneeling down. You could also use it for the router table as well, of course. Or... no, I'm not going there. It's only 15 centimeters. The gauge. It could work. It would work. Would work. Moving on. Now this thing is called a carpentry inclined hole locator, whatever that is, and it was 35 bucks. And at first I thought it's basically a drill guide, but not really. It's got an angle scale on the inside, so you unlock the handle and you move the entire piece to your preferred angle. The handle also loosens with these knobs, and then you can adjust the height of the handle as well. Now a couple of issues right away. The scale. I open up the knobs and I align this to the 45-degree mark. Well, on the other side it isn't showing 45 degrees, so I could lock it on one side and then force the other side to be 45, but that doesn't really feel like Swiss accuracy. So to be honest, I first thought that this was a basic drill guide, but as it turns out, it's more of a drill guide for dowels and maybe even pocket holes. At least it says something about that in the long title, because the handle measurement is actually for the thickness of the wood. On the bottom here, there are some pins that kind of act as support. There's a scale on the handle part, so I guess the main thing would be to use this as a dowel guide when attaching wood together. So set the thickness of the wood on the handle, then set the guide to 0 degrees, which I can't really, it doesn't go as far as 0 degrees. And attach the appropriate drill guide. It comes with 6, 8, 10 and 12 millimeters. Drill the hole on the marked line and then do the other side. And attach it together with a dowel. But there are dowel pins as well, so I would say this is basically garbage in my opinion. Moving on. Now this is a pocket hole jig from Enjoy Wood. It's 65 bucks, it comes with the jig itself, it has a dust collection, bunch of measurements for wood thickness, drill bits, some screws, and this external rack thing, and that's so you can mount it to a flat surface. Looks pretty versatile and good. Most parts made from aluminium. And what really matters in my opinion with one of these is how fast and easy it is to use. So I'm going to time myself making a drawer using this pocket hole jig just to see the ease of use on this thing. And how does it compare to this cheaper one? And this really cheap one that connects with a clamp? Let's find out. This video is sponsored by PCBWay. PCBWay makes PCBs and PCB assemblies, but they also do 3D printing and CNC machining. If you have something you want 3D printed, for example, you can upload the file to their website, you'll get a quote instantly, and then you can have them make it for you. It's as easy as that. Check out PCBWay.com for more information. Thanks PCBWay. So let's get the wood attached, clamp it down. And the funny thing is that this little stop collet doesn't fit the drill. Impossible to get it on, like it's not the same size as the drill. The drill is 3/8 of an inch, which if you're in Europe like me, not good. Measure the drill bit, it's 9.5 millimeters, and if I measure the collet, it's 9.48. So that kind of makes it impossible to get it in there. So the screws that came with the pocket hole jig are these Tsquare kind of screws, and so is the bit, of course. And that's a downside as well, because I don't really know if I can get a hold of these types of screws in Sweden. And then this bit is unusable. These screws are annoying because they don't attach to the drill bit either. But there we go. Okay, so that took me 12 minutes exactly from cutting and screwing this together. And it's one of the wonkiest boxes I've ever made, but yeah, still. I would say it works, but there are a couple of downsides, like the bit that comes with them, that the collet doesn't fit the drill bit. I didn't use the dust collection on it, which of course would have improved the usability of it. It does have both millimeter and inches on it, so I'm not sure if they have some kind of option for you to choose the millimeter drill bit instead. I couldn't see it on the website. Another downside is there's no real way to clamp it down unless you get creative, but there are these holes for mounting it to something, but I don't want to drill it down into my workbench, and I want it to be portable, of course. So I guess it's okay, but not ideal. In trying to stress to make this box the quickest actually cost me one, to have a kickback on the table saw. 2, I turned on the dust collection without the bag being attached, so it's basically dust everywhere. And 3, I kind of hasted when screwing this together, so it's not straight. Well, that's the Chinese tools right there for you. I later learned that there's a company called Masca that makes basically an identical version to this. Actually, it's the other way around. That one looks to be made with high quality control in mind, however. Now, this is an upgrade to both of these. This cheaper one does the job, but it's a bit slower to use, and this plastic one, I can't really recommend it at all. Now let's stop with the rubbish and get to the real goodies. Now this is such a premium one, I'm not sure I'll even use it. But I've only seen the pictures of this, so let's open it up and see what it actually looks like. Oh my god, this is so beautiful. Look at this Tsquare. Now this is the most beautiful woodworking tool I've ever seen. And I've seen a bandsaw that looks like Marilyn Manson. Or was it the other way around? Anyways, this is from the company Hongdoi, and they have proven themselves to make some quality items. I mean, just look at this. It's a collaboration between Hongdoi and Canada United Clamps Corporation. And it's got both millimeters and inches. Now I did get some heat from my last video where I just tried the squareness of the cheaper Tsquare by making a line from each side of the piece of wood. People were saying that's not the way to measure straightness. So it is quite hard measuring the squareness of a Tsquare, because normally you would flip the square the other way to draw a parallel line, but with a Tsquare you can't do that. So with this one I'll draw parallel lines and try to measure if they are actually parallel. And also just by looking with a trusted square. And from this non-scientific test, it looks as though it's square all the way to the end. But if it isn't, you could remove this part by pressing this button on the bottom, and with these adjustment screws, change the angle ever so slightly. I don't want to do that to ruin a perfect 90, but you could. It also has a scribe, so you loosen this knob, slide it into place, and you can screw down this tiny scribe screw and use that to scribe. Pretty brilliant. You can also use this with a sharp pen or a drill bit to scribe. And finally, it comes with this drill guide, so you can drill holes through the ruler and use the 4 different sizes that comes with it. Pretty good features of a Tsquare, I'd say. It also comes with all of these holes for your pen to make marks on every millimeter. Now it is pricey though. At the time of recording this, it's $150, but man, it's beautiful. Wow. My friend Steve said it looks like He-Man's sword, and I get the reference, right? In my first video with tools from Banggood, I tried this miter gauge, which I still use. It's from Hongdoi as well, and at the time of buying this, they didn't have a fence for it. It feels like they make such great quality items and that they just aren't throwing stuff out there until they have something really good, but also high quality and good looking. Pure quality. And let me tell you right away, this miter fence is not cheap. Getting the miter gauge and the fence together would land you on about $300. But compared to the competition, still quite good. It's what this wonderful miter gauge has been waiting for, a real miter fence. This stop block here actually has a magnet to it, so when you put your flip stop down, you can slide this up to it and it will magnetize and therefore keep the flip stop rigid as well. It's made from extruded aluminium, but the real deal comes with these measurements and the fine adjustments on it. And the details on it are just amazing. But this has a lot of features that makes this the best miter fence I've seen out there. Firstly, it's extendable, like really extendable. The flip stop block thingy has a fine adjustment of down to 0.02 millimeters. There's a pin in the flip stop, for example, when cutting miters. This brass knob is used when setting up the scale, which comes in both metric and imperial, and you can turn the scale upside down depending on what you want. I know what I want. Let's say you want to extend it with the flip stop. No problem. Move it to the side, then extend the rail and voila. You can cut up to 850 millimeter wide pieces. And with the part bag that comes with it are these extra screws, bolts, and this piece if you want to make a wooden sub fence to put on it. And since the flip stop then won't reach around the sub fence, this piece can be attached and still have use of the flip stop. There's just one thing I can say to the people at Hongdoi. Genius, and thank you. As usual, there are links to everything I've shown in the description down below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Hej då!